Hello, everyone. Welcome to your team news ahead of Gameweek 4. My name is Az, and I'm joined by the team news man himself, Mr. Neale Rigg. How are you, Neil?
Not too shabby, nice. Thank you very much. Yeah, we've had a busy day today. We've had 16 press conferences. We had 4 yesterday, so I think we've heard from. I say we've heard from everyone. Cooper is lagging behind. I think he's ongoing now, but I suspect there won't be too many people bothered about the Forest team news.
No. And I will say, if anyone wants these kind of information as it kind of comes in, do check out our Twitter account because Ian does a fantastic job rounding up all the press conferences into one lovely thread. So we'll do the roundup here, but also, check that out as well. Let's get straight into it. Let's start with the first game of the weekend, which is Southampton versus Manchester United. When my tweets haven't gone in for some reason. That's interesting. I'll leave you. Talk about Southampton while I find those and put them in, Neil.
Pretty straightforward, I think, for Southampton. They've got only Livramento out. So Romain Perraud is back in training, so he could feature. And that's pretty much it. Questions about Che Adams, obviously, who's scored 4 in the last 2 League and Cup games. A lot of questions about his future, but Hasenhüttl seems keen to keep him. And I suspect he'll be starting tomorrow. As for United, probably the biggest, we were just discussing this off air, might be the headline team news of the day, which shows you how quiet it's been. Martial's out again. He just came back, played 45 minutes against Liverpool, and now he's got an Achilles issue, so he's out of this one. Ten Hag said he hopes he's back for Thursday against Leicester, but that was very much a hope rather than a prognosis. So they're going to assess him. I think there wasn't much other team news from United. We don't know about Lindelof if he's still out. Casemiro is fit though, so he could make his debut. He has trained and he's in line to certainly feature in the squad at the very least.
Interesting game that. It'd be interesting if United can carry on that momentum from the Liverpool win. I mean, on paper it's a good game, but you never really know with Southampton what you're going to get.
Yeah, both teams looked sort of stinking in game weeks 1 and 2 for the most part, and then looked a lot better last week. So yeah, not sure what we're going to get with those two.
Yep. Move on to my next screen, which I hope has some graphics on it. That one didn't for some reason. It does. Excellent. Brentford versus Everton next. What's happening with the Bees?
I think it's as you were. So Lewis Potter and Mads Roerslev are fine. They picked up knocks in midweek, but Thomas Frank's given them the all clear. Sergio Canos is still a couple of weeks away. Ethan Pinnock is longer term. And Christopher Ajer is playing for the under-21s as we speak. So he's had hamstring surgery over the summer, and he's now back building up match fitness. But obviously, if he's playing for the academy side today, that means he's probably not going to be involved tomorrow against Everton.
Yep. And speaking of Everton, we've got a couple of injuries to report. We've also got a potential signing coming in. I hear Neil Maupay is en route. I have to say that with a smile on my face. And Craig Gordon could be on the way out. What's the latest with everything that's going on with Everton?
Yeah, I mean, I can't sort of fill you in much on the transfer news, as Lampard is playing it with a very straight bat this morning. Wants to keep Gordon as you'd expect. Team news wise, they've got the usual contingent out. So Calvert-Lewin still missing, Decoria, Godfrey, Mina, Gomez, and Townsend. Dele Alli, of course, now in Turkey with Besiktas. So that just leaves, I think, Ben Davies. He's in contention to return. He was in the starting 11 in midweek, pulled out because of a groin problem, but is now back in training and should feature.
Excellent. We're flying through these today.
Yeah.
Brighton Leeds next. Not a huge amount to report from the Brighton camp. I think we're pretty much fully fit, bar a couple of longer-term injuries.
Yeah, just the same two as last week. I think Jakub Moder and Jeremy Sarmiento. Sarmiento is obviously a shorter-term one. Leeds, a few lines of note here. Bamford's, of course, the headline act, as he has been for the best part of a year now, in terms of injuries. So he is making good progress, according to Jesse Marsh. However, it does sound like they're not going to risk him for this one, especially with Leeds in such good form as it is. Rodrigo banging him in on top, not needed as much at the moment. And Marsh said that himself. He said because of the performances of the team, it allows us to be patient with Bamford. So I think he's suggesting that he's not going to feature, certainly from the start against Brighton. Apart from that, I think it's as you were. Ayling, Dallas, and Firpo still out. Liam Cooper came back in midweek in the EFL Cup and got in, I think, 45 minutes. So he's now added to the squad as well.
Some question marks around Rodrigo from a few Leeds fans that I've seen on Twitter. Not in the short term, obviously, but longer term when everyone's fully fit. How do you kind of see that playing out?
Yeah, I mean, I'd always bow down to the knowledge of the likes of Seb and various other Twitterati names that you'll recognise from the FPL community who are Leeds fans. And they suggest that I think their first choice front four, when everyone's fit and in form, would be Bamford up top. Then I think Harrison, Aronson, and Sinistera as the three behind. Now, that's probably a long way off. Bamford was, as you know, is plagued by injuries. Sinistera has only just come back from injury, got in an hour on.
Great goal.
Yeah, cracker. And looks a prospect. He was obviously a big thing in the Netherlands last season, but who hasn't been a big thing in the Netherlands? And so he's now back involved. But again, I think probably a week or two away from starting, especially with Leeds of form they're in. There was some comments from Marsh on Rodrigo in the embargoed section last night. That's why we didn't report on it through the day yesterday. Saying that it was kind of a mixed bag. It reminded me of sort of Moyes talking about Ben Rama last year, saying that Marsh was saying that he wished he'd worked with Rodrigo from a young age and he could have improved him and more. But he did say he was in very good form at the moment, and I think potentially world class, I think was his words.
Wow.
So nothing to worry about in the short term. Obviously, when you get to the international break, when I think most people are playing their wild cards, you might reassess then if everyone's back fit. And we'll see what the form's like for the remainder of this quarter of the season. But for now, don't worry.
Yeah, I like Sinistera. You're right about the Netherlands, though. Jurgen Locadia smashed it at PSV,
Yeah.
and he is the worst player I've ever seen, I think, in the Premier League. So, yeah. But I do like the look of Sinistera. If you can even slightly emulate Rafinha, he's going to be an exciting one to watch. Chelsea-Leicester next. Some doubts and problems for both of these sides. Let's start with the home team.
Chelsea's team news is pretty positive on the large because they've only got one player injured and one suspended. So Kovacic is back, which is a good bit of news. He's only available to play around 20 minutes or so, according to Thomas Tuchel. Yeah, he's just back in training, and they're going to sort of gradually ease him in. So no other injury news apart from the one we knew about, which was Kante, and he's out for 4 weeks plus, according to Tuchel, and that will take him to the international break, I think, and beyond. Koulibaly, of course, is suspended as well. He got red carded last weekend. So, what they do? Will they bring in Cucurella at the left-sided centre half? You would think so. And Aspi potentially on the right to give James a bit of license to go forward as a wing-back, because we've seen James as a centre half a bit too much for my liking of late. So that's one possibility about what he might do. He does like James against teams with pace going forward. So Vardy has got that. So there is a possibility that he plays with James as a centre half still. Leicester, well, yeah, Maddison is a doubt with a twinge according to Rodgers. Now we're getting towards transfer deadline day, and he always cynic amongst me. So he just looks into these injuries and thinks there's more to problems than that. But if we're taking Rodgers at his word, then we assume Maddison's a doubt. I think he's going to be assessed today. This was a press conference that was held yesterday, so he still might be all right. All eyes on Sam Martin on Twitter, see if he can give us any leaks. But he's 75% flagged as things stand. Apart from that, I think just Pereira and Bertrand who are out long term, and Wesley Fofana isn't being considered for selection. The team he wants to move to, Chelsea, of course, they meet tomorrow with Leicester, and Rodgers seems a little bit scathing on the sort of low key sort of basis, because I think he was championing how professional Harry Maguire was when he was about to leave Leicester, and Fofana's training with the under-23s. So I think that tells you everything you need to know about what Rodgers thinks about Fofana at the moment.
Yep. Ryan Quinn in the chat, I called him Craig Gordon. It was, of course, Anthony Gordon, who plays for Everton. Craig Gordon is a goalkeeper who, I remember at Sunderland, he's still playing. He's still playing. Still in Scotland. Yeah, 39 years old.
He was at Hearts, wasn't he?
That's right,
Yeah. Pushing 40 now. So, yeah. I mean, Everton are pretty badly hit. I'm probably not too far away before looking for that Gray Gordon.
Stick him up front.
Yeah, he's better than Rondon. Yes, I think that's it for Leicester.
Yep, yeah. Excellent. Liverpool, Bournemouth next. All eyes on Liverpool after 3 poor showings, I'd say. First half against Palace was all right, but other than that, not being great at all. Any good news to Liverpool fans? Are all of their injured players coming back?
Well, they're closer than they were, but none of them's going to be back for this weekend, it sounds like. I suppose if there is a fixture you want to miss, then it's Bournemouth at home, but I'm still a bit nervous as a Robertson and Alexander-Arnold owner, even though you're up against Bournemouth. Injuries. What did Klopp say today? So he said that I think Matip, Jones, Thiago and Diogo Jota and Kelleher are all close, possibly in training next week at some point, but not for this weekend. Naby Keita is the latest addition to that. He was out against United with a muscle problem, and they're not 100% clear what that's going to entail. So assessment continues on him. Darwin's suspended still. I think this is the second of his 3 games. And Konati's still out, and Ramsey's still out as well. So I think they're into not far off double figures.
Yeah, wow.
For injuries or suspensions. And no one back this weekend, it sounds like.
What they need is an international break and not a midweek round of fixtures next week. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, three games in 7 days. So even if someone's close to fitness, they could still miss another 2 games before they're even in contention.
Yep, not ideal.
Yeah, not great.
No, not an ideal start.
No.
And how about Bournemouth?
Yeah, another one that was yesterday. Solanke's back in training as of today, so he's missed, I think, the last fortnight or so. And 1 day of training before Liverpool game. I wonder if Parker will preserve him for the more winnable games ahead. So they've got, I think, Wolves next and then Forest. So those are the teams you want to be kind of targeting for results. So I wonder if Parker just benches Solanke for this one and then brings him back for game week 5 and 6. Aside from that, the usual suspects, I think, are still out. So Rothwell's still out. Fredericks is still out. Brooks is building up match fitness still. Stanislas is the latest one. He's got a groin injury. He's out for this one as well.
Stanislas?
Yes, yeah. It was
still there. Wow.
It was at one point quite a cult FPL hero.
Yeah.
Budget midfielder who did quite well, I think, at the back end of one season. I can't remember which one it was. But he's out, and injury's always a problem with him. Jamal Lowe is back in training after missing out in midweek through illness.
Excellent. Let's move over to the champions, Manchester City. They are playing Crystal Palace, and we've got a really comprehensive update from Pep, I believe.
We have. True to form, he says he doesn't know what the latest is because they haven't trained this afternoon. And I guess yesterday was a recovery day because they were playing in midweek.
Yep.
Even though they didn't have a competitive game, they were in friendly action in Barcelona. And they picked up some more injuries there. I mean, not sort of first teamers as yet. So Phillips was the notable one. He, I think, injured his shoulder. Grealish and Ake missed that game with their respective issues. I think knock and a groin, respectively. And Laporte's, of course, been sidelined for months with that knee surgery. But he is back in training individually. So we're on the hunt for training ground images, I think, for the rest of the afternoon. See if we can spot anything from the training ground. But Guardiola's not going to tell us anything more than what we know already.
Yep. And they are playing Palace. And get your bingo cards out because our favourite player, Neale, is injured, still injured, and still mentioned every week. Yep.
Yeah, Nathan Ferguson is still out, and so are MacArthur and Tompkins. So I think it's as you were with Palace going into game week 4.
Excellent. Just before we carry on, if you could take a second just to like the stream. There's 752 watching, only 71 likes. Only 10% of you have liked the stream. That is unacceptable, and Neale is fuming. Look at him, absolutely fuming with that. So we would really appreciate it.
You don't like this stream.
Exactly. I know, terrible, isn't it? Background noise, Neale. Background noise. If you could also make sure you're subscribed to the channel as well. We are so close to 80,000 subscribers, which I'd love to hit by the end of next week. So if you are enjoying the content going out on Scout and you're not subscribed, or even if you think you're subscribed, just have a quick check. Make sure you are. Click that button. It really helps us out. Let's carry on. Let's go over to Arsenal next, and they are playing Fulham. No news from Arsenal to save you a bit of time, right? Nothing new to report.
Yeah, just just Reece Nelson, who's obviously wouldn't be trouble in the first team anyway. Arteta talking a bit about rotation, but then I think most managers are at this time of season. He's not suggesting it's going to happen this weekend. He's just reflecting on the fact that from now on until I think the World Cup, Arsenal's playing twice a week, every week. But we knew that anyway. So, and then the Europa League, as we mentioned last week, they're not in the Champions League. So I suspect a lot of those fringe players like Smith Rowe and Nketiah will get game time in Europe.
Yeah, interesting. Big squad, lots of players sort of chomping at the bit now. Tierney, Vieira, Smith Rowe. Yeah. You know what happens with Ben White when Tomiyasu's coming back in. I don't envy your job predicting that lineup as we get a bit later on, but for now it seems fairly settled.
It's probably the easiest one, or has been the easiest one of the season so far, because they've named the same team for the first 3 games and the 2 preseason games before that. Wow. So this is unchanged in 5.
Wow. We're up to 160 likes now, so that clearly works.
Fantastic.
See,
just needed a kick up the bum.
Just needed a little kick up the bum. And how about Fulham? No big updates, I believe, from Silver, but how are their other guys getting on?
No, recurring theme today. I suspect that will change when we get the 2 games a week. So Solomon and Wilson are long-term injuries with knee issues, and I think the only one I've noticed, Cabano, he is being assessed on a daily basis to see if he can come back. He missed out last week, and I think that led to, was it the 4.5 forward starting Stansfield, who played on the wing last weekend. So if Cabano was still out, he could get another run out. I do see people moving for Stansfield, thinking he's going to be getting game time. And if you've got a transfer to burn, then fair enough. But I don't think that's going to be a long-term solution. Silva's probably going to try and recruit in wide areas between now and deadline day. So just be aware if you're thinking Stansfield's going to be getting regular minutes.
Yep. Excellent. Villa, West Ham next. Another near clean bill of health. I think this is the like the weirdest team news ever, just because there's so few things to actually report on. Nothing from Villa, right? Diego Carlos, who was out last week, and Augustinson.
That's it. What a quiet week again. Augustinsen's back. Yeah, he missed out in the EFL Cup, but straight back into training, so he's fine. West Ham, the usual vagaries from Moyes. He says that he thinks everyone's come through unscathed from last night. Of course, they were in Conference League action, so he thinks everyone's fine. Dawson he's been a week-to-week doubt. I think he's been getting better for about 3 weeks now, but still hasn't featured. Aguero's obviously long-term. Kufal missed out last night because of concussion. But I think that 6-day protocol will be served by the time he gets Sunday. And Moyes said he's been herring around training. He's not been adversely affected otherwise. It's just the 6-day protocol that you've got to serve regardless of whether you've got any lingering effects. So I think he should be fine.
Looks like they've just had a bid accepted for a new midfielder, I believe, West Ham.
Yes. Paqueta.
Paqueta, that's him, yeah.
Yeah. I did see FPL General's tweet, a very good one. He says, I can imagine next season there's going to be a lot of teams called Paqueta Rice.
Oh, that's genius.
Yeah. Kudos to Mark for that.
Stealing that, yeah. Know anything about him?
Oh, I'd love to say I'm a aficionado of French football, but highlights reels and the occasional clip on Sky Sports is about some of my knowledge. But
60 million.
Someone. Yeah, I know. I'm more excited about another 60 million signing further north.
Oh, we're gonna come on to him in just a second. Mm-hmm. We didn't talk about Anthony either for United. That could be an exciting one. Is he going to be a Pepe, another Pepe, or is he going to?
Well, there's already people suggesting he's not worth anywhere near that amount of money. But
seems like a lot, but
yeah,
we'll see. Let's come over to Wolves and Newcastle then. Wolves, nothing really interesting to report. Jimenez came back and scored. That was exciting, I guess.
Fully fit. Apart from I think Chiquinho who's long term. Yeah, Jimenez back, relinquished a penalty in midweek. He gave it up for Hwang, who subsequently missed. And Bruno was chastising him for that a bit. He said it was a nice thing to do, but the wrong thing to do. So Jimenez is still very much on penalties, even though he didn't take it. I think that's it in terms of Wolves team news. So Newcastle, here we go with one striker out and one striker in. Wilson's injured, as he often is. He's going to be out for a couple of weeks. Wilson thinks, Eddie Howe thinks Nothing too serious, but enough to keep him out for at least 3 or 4 game weeks. Injury-wise, Burn should be fine. Same with Lascelles and Fraser. And Emil Kraft's probably going to be out for a while, but he's back up to Trippier anyway. So yeah, the exciting news, of course, is that we've just signed Alexander Isak, who is young Swedish striker. Zlatan was saying people are going to forget about Zlatan now that Isak's on the scene. That's big praise from an egomaniac.
Wow, yeah, it is.
Yeah, so he's. I think it's been completed in time for him to face Wolves. That was what I was saying this morning. He was keen to get it over the line. I'll still be to be confirmed on that. I'll check out Newcastle's website, but I suspect he won't start anyway. I think it'll probably be Chris Wood up top, and Isak, who's going to have like 1 day of training at best with his new teammates, probably coming on as a sub. But obviously beyond that, starts will be in order of the day for Isak up front.
33 and 105 for Real Sociedad, 9 in 37 for Sweden.
Yeah, not sort of prolific numbers. Certainly not last season. I think the season before he was banging them in, but I think 6 last season for Sociedad. Apparently he's quite a streaky player. He can go on, sounds a bit like Wilson. He can go on runs and but then sort of dry up a bit. But he's very young, you know. He's not without that reputation for a reason. I mean, he's been courted by, I think, a lot of bigger clubs in Newcastle in the past couple of years. So yeah, looking forward to that because. Chris Wood, for all I admire his work ethic, he's not going to get you more than maybe 9-10 goals a season most years. And I think his best days are behind him now.
Yeah. I thought he'd go to Arsenal, for example, in the summer.
Yeah.
They were kind of crying out for a 9. They went for Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm sure Arsenal's happy with that deal. And Jesus is the finished article now. I think Isaac's a work in progress to an extent. But Howe's done wonders with a lot of our players already, so hopefully he can take him to the next level.
Interesting. Look forward to seeing him. And finally, it's Forest versus Spurs. Let's start with Forest. Every week we know the question's going to be asked about Perisic on Spurs. I'll come to you on that in a second. But let's start with Forest. Anything new from them?
Well, Cooper was meant to be at 1:30, but he's always late, or at least the coverage of it is always late. So I've not heard anything new. I'm just quickly putting this into Twitter.
I've got something, but from there, I thought I had seen something on the tweet.
Yates
isn't back. Wayne Hennessy's back in training. Is that from last week?
That doesn't sound recently because Yates played in midweek. Yates is fit, as far as I'm aware. I'm not sure where you got that tweet from. It might be new.
Who knows?
But
who knows?
Yates played in midweek in the cup. So unless he's picked up something fresh, I don't think so. I'm just looking at it now. I think I can't see anything. The only things we were concerned about, Colback was injured. Sorry, he was ill. We knew Richards was out long term. Same with Niakate. So I don't think we were expecting anything. But then, as Mark Southern's warned me in pre-season, Cooper won't give you anything of use anyway, even if he tells you about the injury situation. So whatever comes through in the next hour or so, when I've digested that presser, I'll let you know on the site. But I can't see anything yet beyond some transfer talk that Cooper's and they've signed another player, and that's what the clip is on Sky Sports. But yeah, as I say, I'll put anything of note on GW's roundup section on the site if I get it.
Must have been from last week. My Obis is doing some slightly strange things today because I definitely put those screens in for the first one and they didn't go in. But anyway, Spurs. Then I mean, let's just ask straight away: does Perisic start? I think I'm going to be asking you that every week.
Well, I think so. This weekend we've had a full week to recover. I don't think he starts 3 in 7 days. I think that's fantastic insight from me. I think most people are thinking that. It's not just the fact that they've got 3 games in a week. It's the fact that the schedule is probably the worst they could get it. They've got a Sunday game, they've got a Wednesday game, and then they've got a Saturday game. So some teams like Arsenal have got off quite lightly with decent recovery periods in between games. Spurs haven't really got that. So I do think there'll be some rotation, and Conte was saying that again this afternoon about 3 games in a week. But for this one, I think Perisic, fitness permitting, because he was holding his calf when he came off, but nothing since then. Hasn't been flagged, hasn't been picked up by any local press since that game. Has trained, I think, midweek. nothing from Conte today in the injury roundup. I'll move on to that now. Skip and Romero still out, but should be back in training next week. And the only fresh concerns which Conte reported were Lucas Moura and Brian Hill, who are backup players at the best of times. So nothing from Conte and Perisic in terms of fitness, so we assume he's fine. And as I say, I had a full week to recover. So, yeah. I mean, you kind of wanted to play against West Ham, I think, if you were Conte. So you'd want him in is that the midweek game? Is that the Wednesday game? So maybe the rest comes next weekend. And he plays the next two. But that's just my sort of initial thoughts on the matter. But I do think he probably starts this weekend.
I can't believe Gill's still there. I didn't even...
Yeah, he was out on loan last season, I think, wasn't he? But then he's come back, and I wouldn't be surprised if he moves on actually by the end of the transfer window, because I don't know how far down in the pecking order he is. They've got Richarlison, they've got Lucas who can play in that front three. Yeah, Spurs have got Fulham at home next weekend, so maybe that's the Perisic suspension.
That would be where my money is.
Yeah,
for that Fulham game. I was looking for Gill on the transfer page. He's there, 5 million. Yeah, you've got to think he's going to leave before the transfer windows close. I think that's it, Neil. Absolutely flew through that today. Amazing stuff. Thank you everyone for watching. Do check out Scout for the predicted lineups from Neil and all the other great articles we've got over on the site. Do make sure you've subscribed to the channel. There's Mark's stream later with Andy North, where they'll be talking through Mark's wildcard changes. So do check that out. Head over to Scout and go to the members only videos, and then it's a deadline stream tomorrow. Be myself and Seb, and yeah, loads of great stuff coming over the weekend as well. Neil, thank you so much. I will see you again next week.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, see you probably for a bonus one on Monday or Tuesday.
Oh yeah. Oh god. It's a busy one. It's a busy one next week, isn't it? I remember now.
It is.
Yep. Bonus team news coming to you next week. See you later.